Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm JJ Jurjevich filling in for the one, the only Todd Corder. We have Wayne RWY Jr. on Twitter, our producer, right there to my right. We have our guest Dave Cohen joining us this evening. And again, this is ATL Prime Sports. Let's go over the social media. Folks, you can find us at ATL Prime Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Myself at JJ Get You One. RWY Jr. for our fabulous producer Wayne, who I've already mentioned once. I'll say it again. And then, of course, Corder Todd for Todd Corder, who I'm filling in for tonight. And hey, man, Wayne, how you doing this evening, buddy?
I'm pretty good. We didn't really get too much of effect from that storm. It swung to the east of us and then headed up towards north central Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty great. It's week one in college football, but I'm definitely not doing as great as incoming Ohio State quarterback Quinn Ewers, who signed a $1.4 million name, image, likeness deal with GT Sports Marketing. So I'm doing good, but not that good. What's on tap? Of course, we have Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, talking Sun Belt football and the big game here in Atlanta at Capitol Park Stadium, Army and Georgia State, the favorites. We're going into our NFL Quick Hit segments and a little bit more right here on ATL Prime Sports. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to our guest. We welcome back friend of the show and voice of, again, the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen. Dave, good to have you back on at Georgia State voice for our guest, Dave Cohen. Dave, I'm going to start you off with a little Patriots question tonight, and of course, ask how you doing, man.
I'm doing pretty good. Just getting ready for season 12, Georgia State football. Hard to believe that
Yeah.
we've played 11 seasons now, and looking forward to getting on the gridiron on Saturday and seeing how this most experienced Georgia State football team fares against a pretty good Army team that was 9-3 a year ago.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll get to that one in a second. But again, I want to get to those Patriots right quick. What do you think of the news today? Cam Newton released. Mac Jones is your starter. Are you happy as a Patriots fan?
Sure. Now, one thing I did see on Twitter was Cam Newton not yet vaccinated. Is that
that's the rumor. I have seen it on Twitter. I have yet to be able to completely confirm it. I said the same thing. That may have had a big factor in it. I think that is something to do with it. You see the precautions the NFL are taking for unvaccinated players and forfeiting games, even at the NCAA level. So that might have had something to do with it, Dave. You're right.
Yeah, but I think everybody is extremely high from what I've read, and I'll sneak a peek at the Boston Herald and check out the Patriots writer and kind of see what the vibe is with regards to what's going on out in Foxborough. And everybody, or the reports that I have read, people seem to be pretty high on Mac Jones. Are they looking at him as the next Tom Brady? In other words, are they looking at him to come in and have that same kind of effect that he had, that Brady had those many years ago? That's a lot of pressure to put on one guy who's not played it down in a real NFL game. We'll never know until he gets on the field. But, I think that they're pretty high no matter what the outcome early on. I think that, they see him as a player that will grow inside the program, will grow inside Bill Belichick's system, and hopefully become, again, not necessarily the next Tom Brady. That's not really fair to Mac Jones, but become a solid starting quarterback that can keep New England or put New England back in the running to be one of the top echelon teams in the NFL. That's reality.
Yeah. They've also still got Jared Stidham up there, don't they?
I believe that they do. I didn't see that he'd been cut. But,
yeah.
I think right now, and Cam Newton may disagree with me, but if he lands, to me, he's at a point in his career now, and I'm not saying that he's, extremely old, but he could be a really solid mentor to a young up-and-coming quarterback in a system. And I thought if New England kept him take everything else off the table, I thought if he stayed with New England, that he would be a solid guy to groom a young quarterback. Not necessarily Mac Jones is the next Cam Newton style quarterback, but someone to kind of show them the ropes of what it takes to be a starting quarterback in the NFL week after week after week.
Yeah. Well, I'm throwing a pretty wide net on where he may end up, and I'm saying my best three guesses are going to be Miami, Houston, or Dallas.
Well, Houston's obviously an interesting situation because we do not yet know what's going to go on with Deshaun Watson. You know, that is a mini mess of itself out there. Dallas, who knows? What's his face out there? Dak Prescott. He has a pretty sizable contract, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But if you're going to have a solid backup with some game-winning experience in the NFL, that'd be a pretty good guy to have there. And anytime a player is available, I never ever count Dallas out because they do things that nobody ever expects.
Yeah. And Miami, again, situation, you know, everybody's talking about Tua down in Miami. I kind of keep a little bit of an eye on the Dolphins just because there's a former Georgia State kid down there and Albert Wilson, one of the receivers. But who knows? Yeah, Miami may decide to take a chance on bringing in a little bit more experience at that position. Or, again, if Cam Newton is willing to do it, come in and kind of be a mentor to Tua and show him the ropes of being a quarterback in the NFL on a daily basis. Interesting situation, though. If he had stayed in New England, it would have been with an Alabama quarterback. If he goes to Miami, it would have been with an Alabama quarterback. And he's the Auburn guy.
Yeah.
And there's three former Alabama quarterbacks that will be day one starters in the NFL. It's Jalen Hurts, Tua, and, of course, now Mac Jones. You're listening to Georgia's State voice, Dave Cohen, right here on ATL Prime Sports. If you like the videos, give us a subscribe. Question number 2, Dave. We're moving into the alliance between the Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC. Do you see the Sun Belt making a move in the near future, whether it being a jump to a conference or additional teams added? I know we kind of talked about it last time you were on, but with all that last time was Texas, Oklahoma, now it's a new alliance. What do you think about this?
Well, again, yet we haven't seen any more dominoes fall. And until they fall at that level, meaning ACC, Big 10, Big 12, whatever, I think the Pac-12 already came out and said that they're going to stand pat, which doesn't surprise me. You know, the Sun Belt really doesn't need to do anything until some of those dominoes above them fall.
Correct.
The only school that I heard any sort of rumor about, and I think it's pretty far-fetched, was that Louisiana Lafayette, or Louisiana as they like to be known, had an interest in the jumping into the Big 12. You know, obviously they just wanted to throw their name in the hat. How realistic that is, I don't know. I don't know that the Big 12 is clamoring to get the Lafayette, Louisiana market, right off the bat. But I haven't heard anything. I think what everybody is kind of waiting to see with regards to the Big 12, what do? Are they going to try to turn around and take some teams from the American Athletic, or try to attract a BYU or a Boise State or some school like that that's kind of an outlier as far as location? If they do that, then the dominoes would, I think, eventually fall down to Conference USA and the Sun Belt, because then the American Athletic, and Wayne knows, he reads, he's got Memphis right there, and they're one of the schools that has been mentioned as a possibility if the Big 12 decides to expand and go after some American Athletic Conference teams. Memphis could be one of those teams. Obviously, I think Houston is a no-brainer. Cincinnati is a no-brainer. Whether or not they want to go, again, to an outlier program as far as location, with regards to the University of Central Florida, I don't know. SMU gives you the Dallas market, and Memphis gives you Memphis, Tennessee. So until that happens, until they decide, the alliance aside, that's more of a scheduling agreement between those three leagues, as I understand it.
Yes. Nothing signed right now.
Right. But until the Big 12 makes some sort of move with regards to trying to build on the teams that it has left in its league, until that happens, the dominoes won't fall yet down to the Sun Belt or Conference USA.
I tend to agree with you. Wayne, any comments, questions?
Just, I'm thinking the only reason Louisiana was had mentioned, being available for the Big 12s because they got Texas coming up, and they're wanting to create some hype.
Well, they're also one of those programs that does, I think, somewhere down the line, with the amount of money that they spend, with the money that they put into facilities, market size aside, I do think that they see themselves as having the ability to compete at a higher level if given the opportunity. You look at a couple of three schools in the Sun Belt, that probably have that sort of mentality, and I would put Louisiana Lafayette or Louisiana at the top of that list. Could Appalachian State, potentially do that? Sure, but what is the attraction of Boone, North Carolina? To a Power 5. I don't know, and I'm not knocking Boone because I love, I enjoy going up there.
About as much interest as Conway would have.
Exactly. Even though they claim to be Myrtle Beach, they're not in Myrtle Beach. They're about 20 minutes away. The same with Georgia Southern, and I'm not saying that Georgia Southern has their eyes set, but it's Statesboro, Georgia. It's still an hour away from Savannah. And you look at a lot of the talk nationally about what goes on with conference restructuring. When we talk about it, we really only talk about it in terms of football, and maybe men's basketball. But as I've said on more than one occasion, I hope that when they make these decisions, that every sport is taken into account. Because hypothetical, let's just say the University of Central Florida is invited and accepts an invitation to join the Big 12. Well, really, football only plays once a week, and every road trip is not going to take them to the Midwest. But what about basketball? What about women's basketball? What about baseball? What about softball? What about soccer? What about tennis? What about golf?
Gymnastics down the line, yeah.
All of those sports are then in the Big 12, and all of those sports then must make those same road trips throughout the course of the season that football does. So how does a move from one conference to the next affect all of the sports, not just football?
Next question, Dave. Sunbelt football full display this weekend. You got Louisiana playing Texas in a ranked opponent. Obviously, Army and Georgia State, which we'll talk about next. ULM goes to Kentucky, Baylor at Texas State. What does this mean for the Sunbelt Conference? And that a lot of these big teams are coming into the Sunbelt Conference stadiums. What does that mean for the conference? Is it getting bigger? Is it getting more popularities on that term?
Yeah, I'm really kind of surprised because I was reading too, and even though Tulane is not in our conference, even though I think
they're in Oklahoma.
Yeah, they were set to host the Sooners in New Orleans, and obviously the storm has forced that game to be moved to Norman. The financial arrangements will still benefit Tulane. But yeah, they were going to have Oklahoma bring that Conestoga wagon down Bourbon Street right onto campus, which, would have been pretty cool for that to have taken place. But, obviously it won't happen this year. But you're right. Some big games this week. This is the time of the season that you see it. Again, Georgia State is going to play 2 Power 5s this year for the first time in program history. Not counting Army. And some would count Army as not necessarily a Power 5, but certainly right on the cusp of
independent. Historically, it's been an independent, so I would agree with that.
Right. So you go from Army to Chapel Hill to play North Carolina, which is many polls have them as a top 10 team, and then after Charlotte, you got to go to Auburn. So, yeah, I mean, last year the Sun Belt, as we've talked about a number of times, had some success against some Power 5s. Granted, they weren't necessarily, for example, the win, Coastal's win over Kansas. Kansas is not known as a football school. Coastal beating them in basketball would be huge news. Football, to those who follow college football, know that, it's a great win. Anytime a G5 beats a Power 5, it's a great win. But Kansas is low-hanging fruit year in and year out, ripe to be plucked. And Coastal Carolina has been pretty good, obviously, last year. Exactly, JJ. And they've gotten them, I think, twice. So, not surprised at all. But, again, Louisiana with a good win, Troy with a good win. I mean, Arkansas State with a good win. The Sun Belt obviously is picking up nationally because of the televised games that they were afforded last year during the virus. Certainly, you know, um, made or allowed college football fans to take a closer look. Wayne's probably old enough, but JJ, you're probably too young. Wayne, I think Ford used to have an image line that said, "The closer you look, the better we look." You remember that?
I remember that along with a lot of other automotive stuff because the first sport that I ever got involved in watching and really liking was NASCAR. So
Right. So again, apply that. The closer you look, the better we look. And last year, because of an odd situation of the virus and the SEC not playing non-conference games and the Big 12 not playing from the get-go, the Sun Belt found itself in a situation where they were filling TV slots. So they got a closer look and they got a better look. I mean, they looked better because of the way they played. And now we'll see if they can continue that in here in 2021.
You're listening to the voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen. You can find him on Twitter at GA State Voice. Final question, Dave. We got to talk about the Panthers' big game Saturday at Capitol Park Stadium. Again, they're 2-point favorites, which I'm not surprised at, by the way. Give me a breakdown and how the Panthers can come out victorious against the Black Knights on Saturday.
Well, we beat them 2 years ago in a driving rainstorm at the stadium, and I know that was 2 years ago. Of course, a lot of players that were on that Georgia State team are still on that Georgia State team. Listen, at the end of the day, we know what Army is driven to do, and that's run the football. This could be a relatively quick game in college football standards because they're going to keep the clock running. The game could be an hour and 45 minutes, and we're on into the radio post-game show.
Fourth quarter, here we go.
Exactly. Well, it's actually being televised nationally on ESPNU, so throw in all those nationally televised timeouts, and we could be looking at a 3:45 4-hour game, right? Right, Wayne?
yeah, well, I don't really.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's frustrating enough to see commercials on TV, but when you're at a game, like a Memphis basketball game that's nationally televised, and they're constantly having timeouts, you're like, what? We just started a nice little fresh run there, and now we get a timeout? Come on.
Yeah. So I'll give you some quick numbers. They were 9-3 last year. They averaged almost 27 points a game. They allowed only 15 points a game. Georgia State is a team that scored on average 33 points per ball game. And again, with almost the entire offense back. Actually, the entire offense is back, from every offensive lineman to every running back to both quarterbacks to an additional quarterback who transferred in from Furman. They averaged 273 yards per game on the ground, only 45 in the air. And they were 45% on their third down conversions, which means as a running team, they can flat out run the football when you're converting 45% of the time, assuming some of those are third and longs, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and they're converting. That pretty much tells the tale of what Georgia State is going to have to do. Going to have to keep fresh legs on the defensive side of the football. Hopefully keep their offense off the field. The other interesting thing about Army, and some would say, well, you've played Army now twice in 3 years. What's up with Army? Well, first of all, they're an independent, so it makes for a good football game. But the other thing is that I think they like coming to Atlanta, because I looked on that roster as I've been doing my preparation and the sheets that I do. 29 players. Let's just say they've got 85 scholarship players, right? Not counting walk-ons. 29 of the 85 are from the state of Georgia.
Wow.
And a number of those players, and I don't have my sheets right in front of me, but a high number of those players are from what we'll call the metro Atlanta area. There's a few from outside the 6 or 7 counties that we call metro Atlanta. So for them, I believe they like coming here. They've been a good team. They were 9-3 last year. 2 years ago when we played them, they came in after going 11-2 the prior
Yep.
year.
Big
So
win. Yeah, big double digits. I knew it was double digits.
right, so they've been solid, but this is an opportunity for them to come into the South, come into Atlanta, hotbed of recruiting. And obviously it's working because you got 29 players from the state and the city on your roster. Again, I think they look at this more than just a non-conference game. This is almost like a non-conference game -- recruiting trip for Army. So, and I think we return the trip and we play up there next year. I believe it's next year that we'll go back up there to West Point. But, for Georgia State, again, Cornelius Quad Brown will be your starting quarterback, guy that made tremendous progress from his redshirt freshman year 2 years ago to the starting role last year, filling those huge shoes that Dan Ellington left following his senior season. Again, running backs, running down some Destin Coates, Jemias Williams, Tucker Gregg, Marcus Carroll, all guys that, knock on wood, if they can stay healthy, we will have a solid running game again this year like we did last year. Great stable of receivers with Sam Pinckney and Cornelius McCoy. I call them our Batman and Robin of receivers, but a number of other guys. We got a transfer that came in from Central Florida, Jakias Cradle, who hopefully will be an impact player. And don't forget the tight ends, Roger Carter and Aubrey Payne. And then defensively, there's just experience at all three spots. Up front, your linebackers and your corners and safeties. All of these guys have been here now the last few years. And so this is the most experienced team. What now happens is they face the most challenging schedule that Georgia State has ever played.
Very tough schedule. Dave, we'll be looking forward to your call. Tell our listeners how they can listen as well as follow you and Georgia State on social media.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm on Twitter at GA State Voice, GASTATEVOICE. Looking for a few more followers that want to keep up with Georgia State football and basketball. By the way, I got the basketball schedule today.
Ooh.
I was telling our sports information guy, we haven't played the first down in the 2021 college football season, and already you guys are emailing me the college basketball schedule. Can we please play 2 or 3 games in football before we start focusing on basketball?
Give me 2 weeks, guys.
Right. For all I know, I'll get in the office tomorrow. They'll be forwarding me the college baseball schedule for 2022. It's like, hold on a minute. Let's take a few snaps at Center Park Credit Union Stadium before we start talking about basketball and football again. And didn't college baseball just end?
Yes.
Well, seemed like it. It went late this year.
Well, because of Dave, it's Coach Brown being here as an assistant coach. Everybody's already excited about Memphis basketball.
That's true. You guys got Larry Brown, and of course, one of our Hall of Famers, Rodney Hamilton, is still on that staff with Penny Hardaway. So I kind of keep up with them a little bit from afar as well. But really, again, GA State Voice on Twitter. We're on the radio in the Metro Atlanta area on 88.5 FM, the 50,000-watt flagship of Georgia State football and basketball. Of course, you can follow us. If you go to TuneIn Radio and just search WRAS, you can find us. And if you're into the mobile app, just download the Georgia State Athletics mobile app, and we'll be right there as well. So whether it's on the radio or on the mobile app, you can find Georgia State football, our broadcast. And, of course, it is televised nationally on ESPNU as well. And I think we're going to have a pretty good crowd because Army has purchased a lot of tickets. They're one of those schools that wherever they go, they've got a large following for obvious reasons. Same with Air Force. So I'm expecting that there will be a lot of Army Black Knight fans at the stadium on Saturday as well. Let's just hope the weather is good. Again, when we played them 2 years ago, it was a driving rainstorm. Fortunately, we held on and won the game. We'll see how it plays out on Saturday. It's a noon kickoff. Our airtime is 11:30. If the weather is great, it could be extremely warm for our sidelines guy down on the field for that one.
And you know what? If a rainstorm comes through on Friday, it's going to be hot as heck on Saturday.
Exactly.
Dave, thanks for joining us. We always appreciate catching up with you and the Georgia State Panthers. Go Panthers, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, I appreciate it. You guys take it easy, and thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. We're looking forward to that matchup on Saturday. We'll go ahead and get into our final topics real quick. Our ATL Prime Sports NFL Quick Hits is back. Wayne, we'll just go over this real quick. Give me your opinion real quick if you got one. We already talked about Cam Newton with Dave. I'll give you my quick opinion. Again, Cam Newton released from the Patriots. Is he done is the question I'll ask. I'll put a little split on it. I think it depends, Wayne. He is going to most likely be a backup at this point in his career. Let's face it, last year he didn't look too good. Eight touchdowns to 10 interceptions, threw for under 3,000 yards, 26-57 to be exact. That was in 15 games. So he didn't put out a lot of good film, didn't have a lot of good players in around him on the roster in his defense. But I think at this point he's going to have to be a backup. I don't know at this point in the season if anybody's going to go give him a starting job, and let's say maybe Houston if Deshaun leaves. But even then they have a viable backup in Taylor. We'll see what happens. Wayne, your thoughts on Cam Newton?
Yeah, the only way that Cam Newton will be done is if Cam Newton wants to be done. If he wants to keep going, he'll find a place. If he's looking to, just bow out, then he'll take that move. I don't think it's going to be dependent on what everybody else does. It'll be his decision.
I agree. His decision. He's a former MVP, a first-round draft pick, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion. And remember, folks, he did get a team to the Super Bowl. The Carolina Panthers lost to Peyton and the Broncos. Or was that it was the Broncos, and Von Miller, I believe, tore him up that day. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it. We'll move on to our second topic of the quick hits. Falcons finished 0-3 in the preseason. The final roster is set. Thoughts on the Falcons? Wayne, I'll let you go first, buddy.
Well, I want to tell you, I'm getting tired of people downplaying and talking down about the Falcons, and I really hope that they just beat the heck out of everybody this year. I want to see them open up, one of those games like Jimmy Johnson used to do down there in Miami, and just run up the points on everybody, regardless. Just to put everybody in their place and make them keep their mouth shut.
Well, hey, I like it. Unfortunately, I'm one of those Debbie Downers. Falcons fans don't expect too much. I hate to do it, Wayne, but we got a job to do here. Falcons, look, I don't think they did enough in the offseason. They signed Mike Davis. They signed Cordell Patterson, especially Cordell Patterson. They thought he was going to be a running back wide receiver weapon, not just a special teams guy. Well, he's third on the running back depth chart. He's third on the wide receiver depth chart. I don't know how much this Patterson move is going to really help you out. He will return kickoffs. Hopefully he gives you a touchdown or two there. But with kickoffs going in the end zone just about 90% of the time, the chances of him returning one are very slim. So, I don't think the Falcons did enough to improve this roster in the offseason or through the draft. I think they had a good draft, but not enough to improve them to be a playoff team. I think with the extended season, the extended playoffs, I think they'll stick around. And who knows, maybe they could fall into a wild card spot and make me look bad. But I think the ceiling's about 9 wins. That'd be about 9-8. Wayne, any final thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons?
Well, you have to understand that I'm not a sports guy as far as broadcasting goes. I'm just a fan of the Falcons. So
that's cool.
I pick them to win every game, every year, all the time.
And that's why we love having you on, because you're a Wayne and you're our fabulous producer, and you can do that, man. I can't. I got a reputation to uphold. No, I'm just playing with you. I'm a fan too, and I'm optimistic. I'm very much, as a fan, I'm very optimistic. You have a lot of weapons. You have Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts out there, Olamide Zaccheaus, who a lot of people don't know about, but you'll get to know him this year. He's a good wide receiver. He's been on the Falcons for about 2 or 3, maybe even about 4 years now. He's always been a possession type guy. He's got good hands. You'll get to know him. Again, I think Kyle Pitts can be an extreme weapon out there with Calvin Ridley. And hopefully Mike Davis can catch some balls out of the backfield and be kind of like he was as a backup to Christian McCaffrey, who came into the spotlight as a starter last year. We'll go into our final topic before we get into our pick 6 here, which is back on the Fan Zone. The ATL Prime Sports. If you've been with us that long, you know that's how long it's been around. The Dodgers ended the Braves' 13-game road winning streak. Atlanta's road trip continues after the LA series. Let's talk some chop. Monday night ended in a 5-3 loss for the Braves. It ended a franchise record road winning streak of 13 games, as I mentioned. Wasn't the only streak broken. That loss ends a 19-game winning streak when the Braves have homered multiple times. There were 7 home runs in that game Monday night, Wayne. 7. Every single run was scored by a home run. It was a bloodbath in terms of home runs. The Braves travel to Denver to take on the Rockies when the series concludes on Wednesday. Wayne, any thoughts on the Atlanta Braves as they close out on an NL East championship, possibly 4 in a row?
Well, August, they shined really bright, but you can't help but think maybe that light is starting to dim just a little bit now. And I don't know if it's because of players, because of the other teams, or what's going on there. But, everybody had some really high hopes when they were on all those streaks. And now it's, like I said, it's dimmed just a little bit.
The light has dimmed a little, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. The Braves still have a lead in the division. And, again, they do play the Rockies, where they've struggled to get wins historically, but the Rockies are in a historically bad season. So we'll move on to our NFL Quick Hits, the final segment of the year. We're going to keep score this year, Wayne. I'm keeping score this year. I got it right here.
All right.
Friday night, we're starting off the Pick 6 segment, which is back on ATL Prime Sports with number 10 UNC traveling to Blacksburg, Virginia to play Virginia Tech, North Carolina's 5.5-point favorites. I'm going to take UNC to cover. They're going to win the game by at least a touchdown. What do you think?
I'm taking Virginia Tech to win at home, and it's mainly because they've got a former Memphis coach as their coach.
Yeah. I'm just buying into the hype of Mac Brown, and I'm going to say that Mac Brown gets him ready to play in a tough environment. Again, UNC by a touchdown. TC's got his pick. He's doing the same thing, USC plus the points. Saturday, noon, ranked versus ranked, 19 Penn State, number 12 Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 5.5-point favorite as they are playing at Camp Randall. Give me Penn State in the points. I think Wisconsin wins by a field goal. So, again, Penn State in the points for me. Wayne, what say you?
I'm taking Wisconsin to cover. I think
Wisconsin
they're going to win
to cover. Okay, you got Wisconsin to cover.
Yeah.
And let's see, Penn State outright. Penn State for the win for Todd Corder. Alabama, Miami. I got Miami in the points again. Wayne, what you got? Alabama's a 19.5-point favorite.
I've got Alabama to win, but not to cover. That is a ridiculous spread, especially.
I agree. So you're with me. Miami in the points. Miami in the points. I think we're getting it at 19.5. It's been bet down to 19, so we're getting the hook here. We're getting the benefit of the doubt on this show. We're going by Monday's odds, and I will go with you, Miami and the points. I think Bama wins by 19, and we are saved by the hook, as they say in betting terms.
I don't think Alabama's going to win by that much. Rick is not the kind of coach that's going to let Saban beat him up like that.
Yeah, Diaz won't do it. I know what you meant. Indiana, Iowa, another ranked versus ranked, 17 versus 18. That is at Iowa. Iowa's 3.5-point favorite. I like Iowa to cover. I like Iowa to win by a touchdown plus.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Iowa to cover.
And TC had Bama. You have Iowa. TC has Indiana outright. He's going against us. Texas, Louisiana, Sun Belt matchup. Texas is 8-point favorites in Austin. I'm going Louisiana in the points. I think Texas wins by a touchdown, but again, we're going to get saved by that extra point. Texas wins by a touchdown. Louisiana gives them a close game. What are you going with?
I'm going with the Raging Cajuns to win outright.
Ooh, win outright. 2 win outrights.
I think Texas is overhyped, and I think Louisiana is going to be a better team.
We'll see. TC has Louisiana outright as well. The last, but certainly the not least of the pick six. It's the biggest. It's the baddest. It may be the sweetest matchup of the season. It's your Georgia Bulldogs versus the Clemson Tigers in Charlotte, North Carolina at Bank of America Stadium, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Your Clemson Tigers are 3-point favorites. Give me the dogs and the points. We're getting it at 3. Clemson might win this game. I'm going to pick the dogs and the points to be safe. That's what I'm doing. Dogs and the points. What you got?
Well, I think that Kirby Smart will be making his mark for the 2021 season and winning this game outright.
Oh, God. I like you, Wayne. I like you. TC is also, no, I'm just kidding. Not so fast, as Mr. Coach Corso would say. He is going with Clemson to cover. So he says Clemson will win by 4. Folks, that is our show today. For Todd Corder, who I'm filling in for our fabulous producer, Wayne, I'm JJ Jurjevich. Again, folks, if you like the video, give us a like, give us a subscribe. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at ATL Prime Sports. Wayne?
We've also got the Friday show, radio show. We're going to have Miss Evie on, and that's at Mancini Sports. You go to blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports, or you can dial in and listen to the show at 347-205-9631. And Miss Evie is the old Miss Evie, and she's going to give us a rundown on what she thinks is going to happen in the SEC of Week 1.
Yep, that is the editor of the Rebel Walk. We'll welcome her back on ATL Prime Sports. Again, for Wayne, for Todd Corder, who I'm filling in for, I'm JJ Jurjevich. See you, folks. Go Dogs. Get you one. See you, folks.